Hey, it's Benji Cole, son of Al Cole from CBS Radio, welcoming you to another edition of People of Distinction. The talk that gives an in-depth view of some of the most dynamic, intelligent, and successful people on the planet. Run to our website, peopleofdistinction.org, for more info, or you can email me directly at benji@alcoleenterprises.com. And on the line with us today, we have Tonya Jackson. We'll be discussing her fantastic book, Rape, A Silent Cry, available at Amazon and Barnes & Noble. And I will say, Tonya was brought to our network, People of Distinction, today by some of the best movers in the business, Parchment Global Publishing. So if you have a book that you'd like moved, move it to Parchment. You can find them at parchmentglobalpublishing.com. And guys, listen, it is an absolute treat to have Tonya here on the line because her book we're going to be discussing. Right there in the title, we have an idea of what we're going to be going into, really, in the journey we're going to be embarking upon. I know you guys as well as myself, we're all very familiar with the Me Too movement, right? Over recent times, it's actually become a very, very profound movement and beneficial in so many ways for really highlighting a lot of the circumstances that so many women, in particular, of course, men as well, but women specifically, have had to endure. And what I love so much about having Tonya here on the line is because, listen, guys, the topic of discussion is a very difficult one to have. But just because it's difficult doesn't mean we shy away from it. It's a discussion that we need to have. It's something that we need to continue to shine a light on. And through this book, it really is going to help broach that topic. At the end of the day, it's the oldest cliche in the book. We know it. Knowledge is power. And the more we know, the more we're able to really alleviate the pressures felt by a situation. And the best thing that really can be known when it comes to sexual abuse and when it comes to the topic of rape is to always understand that the victim is just that, first and foremost, a victim, and B, is not alone. There are resources out there that are available to really help you through this difficult situation. And I'm so glad that we have Tonya here on the line because, listen, she's the expert on the matter. She's done the research. She's written the book. Now, she's going to be able to articulate all the nuances in her book much better than I ever could. So without further ado, let's bring her here on the line with us. Tonya, first and foremost, thank you so much for being a guest with us today on People of Distinction. How are you?
I'm fine, thank you. Thank you for having me today.
Absolutely. Well, listen, we're very much looking forward to it. As I stated, this is a topic of discussion that is not the easiest to have, but we really need to be discussing it. And we applaud you for taking the initiative, putting the book together, and joining us on the network to discuss it. Now, why was this book written?
Well, I have to say I observed on many occasions where there was physical abuse and or assaults, and I wanted to share my views on how individuals don't have to feel that they are alone. Mm-hmm. The book depicts the lives of 4 individuals and their outcomes. The idea is, even though these individuals endure this trauma, they have been threatened not to reveal the perpetrator, and there are ways to get around those threats. Mm-hmm. Nowadays, as you already have mentioned, is that hospitals, law enforcement, and others that are involved with this type of trauma seem to be a bit more diligent in helping individuals. There are programs that can help, like here in Philadelphia, where I currently live. It's called WAR, WOAR, Philadelphia Center for Against Sexual Violence in Philadelphia. And it's located at 1617 John F. K. Boulevard, Suite 800. That's in our Center City section of Philadelphia. They offer confidential and comprehensive sexual abuse, assault counseling, advocacy services, community and professional services, just to name a few things that they're involved in. Mm-hmm. It is also important to remember rape is also comes in with emotional and mental stripping. When I say that there is a trauma that could take place for some or most, where the mind goes through things. You might start thinking, I'm not worth it anymore. You might get self-esteem is low. You might get depressed. Those things are stripping of the natural mind and the fortitude that you may have had before to go through and to push through. You may not have that determination. So it is important to understand it's just not always a physical thing, but it can be an emotional thing as well as mental. And I just want to encourage those who have endured this trauma that they're not alone. There are those that can help them. And that's what I want to point out.
Absolutely. Following off of that, who are you wanting to reach with this book?
Well, you have young, mostly, young people where their minds are still being developed. They have mentioned so many times on the news you hear, or in books or other places you hear about children and sex abuse and from family members or family friends, and they're still young and moldable. So if you can reach them at a young age and teenagers, there are just so many people. And then they have never been reached and wanting to get out of that state of mind that they may have been placed in because of what they've gone through. I mean, as long as they can be reached, I want to be able to reach them and let them know there's hope.
Absolutely. She's not talking about just reaching the victims. She's talking about reaching young individuals as well. As she stated, where their minds are still being molded. Let's get ahead of the cause. I think that's fantastic. That's such a great point to bring up. Now, Tonya, why do you think it's important to pay it forward?
I believe it is important to pay it forward because as individuals, none of us have all the answers. Therefore, I'm happy to share what is new. And I believe as we continue to go on in daily life, you see so many people that may have information, no matter what it may be. It's always great to share what you have learned because that individual may need that answer. If you see someone in a fault, restore such a one. If you have that answer, share it because you never know the impact it may have on your lives.
Absolutely. In my mind, I just see this needing to be on everybody's shelf. I mean, it's such a profound book. There's so many great points to it that can really be pulled, again, from all walks of life. What are your thoughts on breaking the internet? Because people are trying so hard to get your book.
Wow. This is something I've thought about many times. If the internet breaks, it would be awesome. But not because of the sales. It would be because it would be showing that my goal is being reached.
Mm-hmm. Guys, again, here on the line with Tonya Jackson, we're discussing her book, Rape, A Silent Cry, available at Amazon and Barnes & Noble. Continuing on, Tonya, this book is something, again, as I stated, needs to be on everybody's shelf. Everybody needs to experience the things that are being taught. Now, in the day and age that we live in, of course, there's multiple ways in which that can happen. It's not just through reading the book. The medium of television and film is so important in terms of gaining messages, in terms of spreading information. I'd love to ask, have you ever considered this book to be depicted in a play or in a movie?
Yes, I have. That's one of the first things I thought once it was published. Because yet again, it's another venue, another avenue in which individuals can be reached. Not everyone will pick up a book, but there are lots of people that love to go to movies and plays. And it's just another way it could be depicted. And the other thing is because then if it's a play or a movie, it would have come across in a greater way because it's then more realistic seeing it.
Now, we discussed earlier in this interview, in recent times, the Me Too movement has been such a profound part of our culture in our day-to-day lives. And then, of course, we've all heard stories, horror stories about sex trafficking. I really would love to ask, Tonya, do you feel that this book could help those who have been a part of the Me Too movement and those who have endured sex trafficking?
Yes, I do. In recent years here in America, there has been an opportunity to witness and to hear about the Me Too movement and how great of a force it was in capturing those perpetrators that were at fault. And in times past, you didn't hear the movement as such as it was, as we've heard in the last several years. As to sex trafficking, it's been going on for many, many, many years, but now you're seeing hotlines that can help individuals, or you have child welfare that's out there trying to help the children, or because most times sex trafficking is happening with young individuals. They're trying to help them and having programs available to them and maybe safe havens for them. There are a lot of different avenues that have been able to be developed so individuals can be helped. So yet again, yes, I do believe this is information that can be used to help. Because once a person is out of that Me Too movement or sex trafficking, they shouldn't be left dangling with no help.
Mm-hmm. Now, I'm curious, Tonya, what type of research did you do in preparation for this book?
Well, at the time that the book was being prepped to write and I was doing my rough drafts and all, I did some research on the internet, some books. Mm-hmm. I watched some movies involving it, talking to individuals and witnessing things that people may have talked about on the news, or even those I may know. And I was able to gather the ideas that have come together, as well as being able to write it down.
Fantastic. I'm curious, what would you say was a highlight for you in writing this book? Or if not a highlight, maybe something that surprised you that you weren't expecting prior to embarking upon this journey?
I would have to take it in a personal avenue of an answer. It's just quite amazing to know that I believe I was chosen to write such a thing. We don't always know which way we should be going in life, but to know that I was chosen to do this because of all the information that's been given to me and the care that I have behind it lets me know this is something that I should have been doing and should be doing. So, yeah, it's just really enlightening to me. It's very exciting to me, and I'm just really glad that I'm able to take on this task by sharing to individuals who need to hear.
Absolutely. And listen, again, we are so glad that you did. What is in the future for Tonya Jackson? I mean, do you have other books that you'll be writing?
Yes, I will be writing other books. Some that have been completed, others that are in the process of being completed. I won't share those information yet because I don't have it copywritten. But yes, just look for my name and you will see soon.
Guys, you know what you got to do. You got to check back into her Amazon page or the barnesandnoble.com page and constantly check in on Tonya Jackson. You surely will not be disappointed. Again, while you're at it, start by picking up this book, Rape: A Silent Cry. Let's grow, let's develop, let's gather the information needed to come together as a society, come together as a human family, and move past such tough times, right? We come together, we will grow, we will develop. That doesn't mean that all the adversity that we face, especially towards sex trafficking, especially towards sexual abuse, we hope that at some point in the future we'll be able to live in a world where that is completely eradicated, that is completely eliminated. But for the time being, since it isn't, let's do what we can now to push for that future. That's absolutely fantastic. We have Tonya Jackson to really commend for putting this book together because, again, it's such a wonderful way to approach a difficult topic. Tonya, last question before I let you go. You are now a published author. You've put this book out, as you've stated, you have other books in the work. So you're going to continue along this career path now. I love having this platform, being an artist myself, to really be able to pay it forward to other artists out there in a sense, and specifically other writers out there. Any advice that you can give our listening audience? Maybe there's a new writer listening in that's really wondering how to embark upon this journey, wondering really where to start with their first book. Any advice that you can give a new writer?
Okay, so I can tell you what worked for me, and perhaps it could be helpful for you.
Mm-hmm.
I knew that the title was given to me, and I went from there and I started writing down ideas and information that I gathered as I went along. And eventually, after I got enough written down, I was able to pull it all together and put it in what I call sequential order, and making sure it was flowing and making sense and just being true to what actually happens around the subject on which I was writing. Of course, it's going to be different for everyone because your topic is going to be different, but it's just important to make sure you have your book with you. Make sure you have your pen. Write it down. If you need to do research on what you are writing about, do your research. The more information you have, the better it will come.
Fantastic. Preparation means everything. Have a roadmap laid out. Know where you're going. And then chip away at it, right? That wall doesn't get built all at once. It gets built one brick at a time. And by taking things in increments and working through it, you'll eventually build that wall. Fantastic advice. Guys, again, I've said it plenty of times. I know you're already at the Amazon page. I know you're already at the Barnes & Noble page. But just in case, I'm going to say it one more time just to reinforce it. Here on the line with Tonya Jackson, we just finished discussing her book, Rape, A Silent Cry. Once again, available at Amazon and Barnes & Noble. Rush on over, pick up your copy. You surely will not be disappointed. Tonya, as I stated before, I'm going to say it again. It is an absolute honor, such a delight. Thank you once again for being a guest with us today on People of Distinction.
Thank you so much for having me.